Danielle Urban, and I've got Bryan Ossa with me here today. How you doing, Bryan?
Hello, everyone. Doing fantastic and excited to be back here on this Tuesday. Rocking our good old 5 to 10 minute after the hour start, like we totally plan on. This is all planned.
Yeah, my calendar's packed today, so
Yep.
I'm grateful to actually just have a minute to sit back and chat.
Yeah.
Um, but today we're going to be chatting specifically about some data cleanliness. And I think it's very timely given the updates that we've seen from HubSpot this week. And there were three that kind
Mm-hmm.
of piqued my interest in this. The first being, I think this came out like today or yesterday, the ability to use regex for property validation. And I truthfully haven't even looked into it. I just got excited at some headlines. Brian,
Oh,
let me pull up our demo account to take a look at it, but have you seen it yet? Have you played with it?
I have not played with it much that yet. I did see it like you, but similarly, I've been so absolutely buried that just haven't necessarily started diving into everything that is all the new product updates. Although I'm really, really excited about them because the data
Yeah.
hygiene is just it's so essential. I can't tell you how many portals or workflows or insert term here that I've been having to navigate and fix lately as a direct result of just data not being clean.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this one together because generally I love the flexibility of regex, a regular expression. I don't know how to write it, but that's okay because we have AI for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it gives you a lot of flexibility in setting things up. This is cool because some of this was previously locked behind Ops Hub.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and looks like so all professional enterprise hubs get this, which is awesome. My question that I want to answer with this description is, does this happen in forms or only in properties? Like when someone's entering a property,
So
how does it work?
I would argue that it works everywhere as long as you have the ability to play. As long as you can modify a property, you can do that via you can edit that via form in some way, shape, and form, whether or not, pun intended, whether or not that's directly within the form itself or post form submission via a quick workflow that just modifies the property. Yes, extra step. We all love that.
Yeah.
But still, it's something to always remember.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Where anywhere that property appears, it looks like we can custom set that error message. So we'll have to do some further testing to see if that happens on forms. But shortcutting that like data cleaning workflow is always so nice when we can
Mm-hmm.
just get people to do it right the first time instead of cleaning things up later. I think that opens up a lot of opportunity to just make sure it's you're getting good data in from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I'm excited about on this one is the ability to archive properties. So when we're talking about, migrating properties or keeping data clean across all of the places that it appears, we've always had that struggle of like you can't archive a property until it's removed from everything it's used in. But if
Mm-hmm.
it was like a buried column on some former employee saved view and you don't have enterprise, so you can't sign in as that employee, then you were screwed. You just had to let it live on forever and like
Mm-hmm.
star archive, whatever. Thankfully, we can get rid of that now. You just archive it and life moves on and it's
Oh man,
lovely.
so
Everything
nice.
gets clean.
No,
Um,
I absolutely adore this feature enhancement. Just like to the exact point you're mentioning, just being able to like slowly deprecate properties that you aren't using anymore in so many ways because that tends to be the biggest crux behind data hygiene. It's not. Well, I mean, it is. I was about to say, it's not just about the data not necessarily being clean, but we all know that that is a degree true because look at how many people leave open text for insert your state when you're in the United States, and then you get like five different ways of spelling it. But the other part of that is, again, when you do update that to a drop down, because you should, you want to archive the one that you're not using, and
Hmm.
so you haven't been able to do that anymore, and like you haven't been able to do that before, but now you can, which is nice. And the
Yeah.
thing that I'm hoping and have my fingers crossed that you will be able to do is that you can archive some of the preset ones by HubSpot that you may not be using, uh, which would be really, really nice. I think that's something that is available now, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I love that HubSpot is moving to that like, here's a framework, now do with it whatever you want. Like we
Yes.
get a lot of that with the custom object library, but even a lot of the things that they build, it's there's a funny parallel to like my new iPhone. It comes with all this stuff on it and you like can't delete some of it and then you like end up eating up your storage space because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But HubSpot is not making that mistake because you can just go in and start customizing from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's where we love the flexibility. So the other big update that's come out recently is their acquisition of Frame AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want that to be the jumping off point for the rest of our conversation because I'm very interested in that. We all know that, garbage in gets garbage out, even with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what HubSpot's Breeze and Copilot has helped with is like answering questions on what's already there. I don't know much about Frame AI, but their claim to be able to mine unstructured data is huge. It's like that can just provide so much information and insights, and does more than just kind of summarizing what's already there. So I know that Bryan, you've done a ton in AI lately, and your
Mm-hmm.
prompting is getting quite advanced, and you are teaching others the magic of proper AI prompting.
Oh, nice. Yep.
So I would love to know your thoughts on this and sort of where you see the opportunity for HubSpot to grow into that unstructured data and using AI to play with it.
Yeah. And I I largely think that this is an internal play. And my, I could be entirely wrong here, but I think the acquisition of Frame AI is very much to just try and help and augment Breeze. So that when you're looking to, so you're, let me rephrase, so you back up and you're able to use it more like an assistant rather than just a task executor. So if you're having a conversation with a potential sales prospect and you want to reference a conversation that you know you had 3 months ago, but don't remember exact context, this kind of thing is where I think it's going to help augment your experience. It's all going to be it's all going to be functionality that I don't think you'll necessarily be able to see in quotes because it's all going to be behind the scenes. And it's really going to help improve the search features. And I think that's going to be immensely powerful. I also think that there's going to be an added aspect of this that may tie into property and object and event management, and that's where you might you might be able to start seeing data that's messy automatically get fixed. And
Oh, I'd love that.
I don't know if that's going to be something that's coming quickly, but using the example earlier for state where you have 5 different iterations of that, I'm really curious to see if there's going to be an implementation for Frame AI to effectively
Oh, it looks like we
effectively
might have lost you there for a second.
get your data all aligned in one specific way. And so it doesn't matter which way you put it in the form, not form, whichever way you put in the property, it's all going to automatically update to be the one correct way.
Yeah. Ooh, I have been having conversations with Sarah this week about attribution and
Mm-hmm.
being able to not have to put so much effort into like normalizing the how did you hear about us answers.
Mm-hmm.
Could be really great here. But I love your point about I think a lot of this is going to run behind the scenes. Everybody's speculating how Frame is really going to be integrated, but we know from HubSpot's past acquisitions that it kind of just gets absorbed into the orange bubble. Like there isn't
Mm-hmm.
really delineation on like, oh, this used to be X. With Clearbit and Rich, we did see that a little bit, where the enrichment is actually a separate SKU. But it's been totally rebranded and is all HubSpotty now and part of the HubSpot platform. The way you access it is in the HubSpot platform. But some of the other stuff that Clearbit did is now just part of the tools that now work
Mm-hmm.
better. And so I think we'll see the same thing with Frame, like you're saying. It just got sort of pulled into Breeze, and we get more out of Breeze. It's better now. I have up the Frame website. I'm going to reshare my screen again just so we can
Mm-hmm.
kind of scroll through and you know make up things about this acquisition.
No, I think that's a great way to look at it because to your point, I think there might be other actionable aspects that I'm thinking of that we're not thinking about. And just one thing that just came off my mind very quickly is just going onto the marketing menu and seeing uh, the first thing that pops up is personalization fatigue, and just thinking about, okay, what can that mean to the lead scoring model that just dropped? What can that mean to your ability to need to generate content specifically for, call it email marketing over to particular clients, where you're able to tie in specific personas and then leverage time of like best practice time of day tools like 7 cents to figure out when you send it to these people and then really be on point to maximize conversion. And there's a lot of that that's just really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I like your call out of the hyper personalization because I'm very curious as to how this works. Like this is a lot of solution based marketing jargon,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually what your website is. But
Mm-hmm.
for ops people like us, we want to know, how does it work? How do you click the
Mm-hmm.
buttons? How do you get to that end result? So that I can start to understand how I might integrate it into our tech stack. I know Nick Zeckets and air traffic control are doing the coolest things with
Mm-hmm.
personalization through email. And they have really put their heart and soul into fine tuning that platform and making it work for personalization in a way that is meaningful and is pulling from some outside sources to get insight on driving that personalization.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I definitely am curious how this would work and if there's any overlap there. I should hope not because I love Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to air traffic control, but HubSpot is also known for taking their favorite app partners and squashing them. So
Yeah.
hopefully that doesn't happen here.
Yeah. No, I get that. And honestly, just it's funny that you mentioned that because again, as I continue looking through some of the thing, like learning about everything that is Frame, is just like it was a tool that was designed as a partner tool. And so because it's a
Mm,
partner tool, it plugs in with HubSpot, but it
yeah.
also plugs into other tools like Braze and Salesforce and Zendesk and Snowflake. And
Mm,
I am like, as these acquisitions continue to happen, and this is getting way off tangent, I know, of like way off the scope of the conversation, I know, but like, I'm really curious to see what all of that continued support looks like for different providers. Like, is this going to be something that now starts, like, will this need to be recreated? Because there's a decision by HubSpot to say, we're not providing this to Salesforce or Braze anymore. And so Salesforce and Braze are like, well,
mm.
now we need to make one. Uh, or will it just be this uh, sharing and augmenting of uh, data across the different tools and platforms? And that's not something I.
Oh, you dropped off for another second there, Brian. Hopefully you come back.
It's not cooperating. My video is not cooperating again. So, but
All
please keep.
good. One more off the rails comment on this, and then hopefully Brian will be able to rejoin us. But one crazy thought that probably isn't going to come true, but hey, why not? Would
Mhm.
be that this could help to replace some of the Salesforce and HubSpot integration woes. So if
Mhm.
you're really applying AI to some of this unstructured and structured data, can it just magically make it work? And if you're bringing in a platform that's already serving those two different platforms, then could it be the glue that pulls it all together? But that's insane, and we can never expect that. So we're just going to come right back to data cleanliness from that point.
But honestly, maybe it can. Like, there's already the streamlined integration process that you can have when you're doing a migration from Salesforce to HubSpot. And what used to be a multi-day, huge, arduous process now takes half an hour, maybe. And I, I'm really curious to see what this could be, because I think you might be onto something there. Just to kind of enhance and augment that experience, because that's ultimately what a large part of a lot of these SaaS companies are doing. It's to enable users to plug into their system as smoothly and effectively as possible, even if that requires translating from another service. And I apologize if my cam went out again. I seem to be having some serious hardware issues today.
It's all good. It's all good. We're making wish lists anyway. Um, but yeah, I think the HubSpot to Salesforce integration is, not anything that people get excited about setting up. And even though you can click a button to make data flow between them in 30 minutes, it still is not. It's like a never-ending struggle to figure out what should happen
Hmm.
where and why things aren't working the way you expect them to. So we can only hope that that gets improved, or that this could be a shortcut to that improvement. But again, I'm not holding my breath on this one. But maybe because it can pull in data or read data from all these different places, especially they've got these logos listed here, but I don't know what other integrations they might have. If you can start to pull all of that together, pull all of those signals from all of your different data sources, into a platform like this to help digest it, it's kind of like an AI data warehouse that's not a data warehouse, where like you can have your sort of no code data warehouse, to help pull it together. That would also be really cool, because then it just ingests and makes sense of the data without you having to decide what that structure looks like. I mean, if they're referencing Snowflake, then they're definitely expecting some level of structure at
Hmm.
some point to drive things. But if you've got some of those property matches and those primary keys set up, then can it really just grab the rest of it and figure it out? I can't wait to see what's possible.
Yeah, and that starts begging the question of the top, like this metaphor, not metaphorical, but like this hypothetical concept of the headless CRM. And
Mm,
that really started taking off the last couple of years, where you can quite literally just plug in and play whatever combination of tools you want to have, and ultimately all your data moves with you.
mm-hmm,
And this, like, I'm curious if this is an attempt to step away from that, because when you start pulling more and more of these tools over into one platform, you no longer need to be using disparate tools in order to accomplish it. It all lives within one place, and I think that's something that where like you're able to see across industries. Like, look at how TV used to be. You used to have local news, became satellite TV, became one streaming service, became many streaming services. And then it gets to a point where where something snaps, and it's just like, okay, we can't do this anymore. It's not sustainable. And I wonder if we're reaching that phase here, which is why HubSpot's starting to make these strategic acquisitions.
yeah, possibly. I feel like on the more realistic side of things, the way that we're going to start to see these features pop up is in this sales AI, because
Mm-hmm.
we had that very rapid succession of the prospecting workspace to the sales workspace. The sales workspace is still in beta. I'm not even sure the prospecting workspace ever came out of beta.
It didn't.
Um, but yeah, so the sales
Yeah.
workspace is still in beta and is really focused on like, um, the next thing that you do and making the suggestions for how to get that done. And the use case that Frame has on their website for sales,
Mm-hmm.
is basically that. It's like, let's figure out what the next best step is for you to do without having to go through the effort to figure out what that next best step is.
Right.
And that's where the sales workspace is already going. And I think that's where, HubSpot is focusing these workspaces like Service Desk, and they don't really have a marketing workspace yet because it's all marketing, but those kind of focused role-based workspaces, this feels like it could supercharge some of those, and get those to a more workable, user-friendly place that is like really useful and really helpful to just execute on all the things and get it done faster.
Yeah, and it'll all and in tandem with that, it's going to make one-to-one communication a lot easier too, because there's a lot of this that you're talking about, like the next step in the sales process, and so a lot of times, if you want to really streamline that or simplify that experience for people, a lot of companies start bringing in, like a chatbot, for example, and so I could very easily see this as like a stepping stone to automating the experience of building a chatbot of just like, hey, look, you want this put into play, you just click and your agent now exists. And same
Yeah.
kind of thing for building out all the various different records and the views. And so I'm just this kind of thing just has a whole lot of blue sky application in my mind,
Yeah.
just to see what it could potentially do. Because, like, to your point, like looking right here, it's talking about first call resolution and predicted CSAT. It's like there's a huge amount of companies that are now starting to think about, uh, well, not starting to, but have been really wanting to buckle down on reducing churn and
Hmm.
improving the customer satisfaction so that you're able to be more predictive with who might be in the orange and in the red.
Hmm.
And these kinds of tools directly help solve that. Not necessarily from the perspective of reducing that experience, but at least giving you the alert for when that's something that's going to be coming, uh, so you can stay ahead of it with those particular customers and reduce the likelihood of having to focus so heavily on net new. Because again,
Yeah.
there's so much of business today is really emphasized on like returning, cross sell, upsell, not the net new. The net new is where there's so much emphasis put in, but the cross sell, upsell, referral is is a much larger ecosystem for most companies.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, so I've clicked through a couple of these use cases with marketing checked off, and they still come back to um, customer satisfaction and customer success, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, like this contact center dashboard, like, sure, it's great to see all that come together, and I can see how marketing might find that useful, but that's not actually a marketing use case. Profile
It's
enrichment,
not.
maybe. Competitor intelligence, sure. You can, do some content strategy based on competitor intelligence, but like none of these are really marketing things. So,
No, but I think that's part of a self-inflicted problem, because yes, marketing used to be its own defined category alongside with sales and customer success. But
yeah.
now, since there was like, and I've talked about this before, now that RevOps has kind of just dominated the whole conversation,
Yeah.
it's in my mind, it's just we're starting to create this self-fulfilling prophecy of anyone who's in this industry essentially needs to be RevOps. You need to understand marketing, sales, and customer support. Not like, yes, you may focus in one particular category in the same way you would like an I or a T-shaped marketer,
Right.
but it's now going to be like that approach, but a lot more holistic for just the customer satisfaction side of things. And so that's where I think there's these lines that are starting to get blurred. And I think this is a really good opportunity to just try and level set that to a degree, because this this tool, and even as we've had this conversation, we've been like, okay, it could be here, it could be there, it could be
Yeah.
in like somewhere else.
Maybe it's just
I think
everywhere.
being very clear about here is the theory behind something and here are some tactical ways to actually use it is going to be a very important part of the actual building up into HubSpot of this system. that sentence
Hmm.
doesn't make sense, but I think the concept does. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that
Yeah, I think
there's less
their
clutter.
sort of marketing use case, as we poked through some of these supposed case studies and look at this marketing dedicated page, it's really just talking about having more data available.
Hmm.
It's not really giving any new functionality. It's just talking about how to use the data that you would potentially unlock. Um, and I think that's always what we're trying to do. That's where the hyper personalization comes into play. So if
Hmm.
it's grabbing, product data, we've talked a lot about custom events and how you can use custom events to better segment and drive more personalized conversations. But if you don't even have to set up those events, and if you're just grabbing information from somewhere else because you've got
Hmm.
product data being fed in through Snowflake or through somewhere else, then you're able to act on that without having to build the infrastructure and really building out all these different variations of a single email. You know what I mean? Like you can
Hmm.
plug in the personalization piece and take those iterations from like 50 down to like 10. So
Hmm.
there's still some work to be done to get it set up and operationalize it, but it means that there's a lot more available to you to just say, these are the parameters, now make it go.
Exactly. And there's so much power to it. And I know the dawn of our conversation of all of this really was focused on data cleanliness. And I think just the like as we're diving through the different level of like functionality that we our conversation wound up spinning towards, which is Frame AI, I think in some ways kind of mirrors that experience of just like, data cleanliness being important and just showing how what like one concept or like one piece of information can very easily rabbit hole to something else and something else and something else and something else. And so it's a good way to just be thinking about how to focus focus your data, keep it clean, and then leverage tools like we'll be able to shortly here with Frame AI, very exciting, among others that are already available in HubSpot as well, in order to just grow the business you want it to grow.
Yeah. We're kind of hitting it from both sides where you now have new tools to help you create cleaner data,
Mm-hmm.
so better data in. And then we're also building the tools to make use of the data that is not clean and that
Mm-hmm.
you maybe couldn't use before or couldn't trust because it was all over the place, or tap into that unstructured data to help inform the structured data. And just to level set on that, unstructured data is like open text. Unstructured data is like a user ID linked to a defined event where everything is really templated and straightforward and you can apply logic to it across different platforms. Unstructured is just like, we don't know what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully hopefully it's good. um, and you can even go so far as to apply that to like images and breaking down images and flow charts like we talked about last week. So I think it's great that we're building, HubSpot is building to a point where we can have the tools to create cleaner data, but we also can have the tools to not be limited by unclean data, by messy, disastrous data, because we know we all have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. And so it just I don't think I have anything to add to that. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And so it's just it's exciting things and a good reminder of why having at least a we'll call it a prescription, whether that's someone imposing it on you or you defining it yourself. There's power in a set, and there's power to that, and something that you absolutely need to have within your company. And so,
Yeah.
regardless of how you're approaching this, make sure you're able to understand, okay, what can be one to one, what can be one to many, what can be many to one, and predefining that before you even start using it in any way, shape, and form, because that's going to be hugely important for everything that is for everything that you do, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great spot to stop for
Mm-hmm.
today. And I'm excited to have another conversation next week and then take a few weeks out for the holidays because I
Yeah.
think we'll be traveling. So we'll have some downtime and
Yep.
enjoy getting through the new year. But we will see everybody next week and let's build workspaces.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
That went better than I expected.
Yes, it did. Hooray!